Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Let's put our palms together in Anjali as we invite Venerable Sunyo out. Okay. Let's pay respects together with Venerable. Okay, let's pay respects to Venerable Sunyo. Okay, welcome again to Singapore, Bhante Sunyo. So before we take the 3 refuges and 5 precepts, let me read a bit of bio for those who don't know Bhikkhu Sunyo. Okay, Bhikkhu Sunyo was born in the Netherlands.
That's right.
Yes, in 2013, after finishing university, he moved.
Yes.
He moved to
Maybe I learned a bit
Bodhinyana.
about myself from you now.
He moved to Bodhinyana Monastery to become a monk. On the day of his ordination, he met his best friend ever in life, his robes.
It's still the same one, as you can tell by all the patches. It's like
And he
almost 9
hopes
years.
to never have to leave his friend behind. Aww. He also has a wide knowledge and expertise in the Pali language and has been teaching Pali at Bodhinyana Monastery for the past 6 years. In October 2020, he partnered Ajahn Brahmali to deliver the Early Buddhism Series, Dependent Origination Workshops. Bhikkhu Sunyo continues to inspire us and is a testament that Buddhism is alive and kicking in today's world.
I don't know about that.
You came from Perth as well as Netherlands, Bhante.
Yeah,
So,
you got that biography from the BSWA website.
yes.
When I submitted it, it was very different, but they changed everything.
Oh, okay.
I had
So,
all sorts of jokes in there, but they didn't like them, I think.
oh, we would have loved it.
I think so.
Next time we should ask you for your bio.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we start with taking the 3 refuges and 5 precepts? We repeat Namo Tassa 3 times after Bhante, and then later on when we take the refuge and 5 precepts, we also repeat after Bhante. Bhante, I have to tell them that because we normally do it together.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Do you do the
because
invitation or
we
I
don't
just
have
start?
Bhante to lead us, so now I'm just telling them to repeat after you.
Okay, and I also have a cheat sheet if I forget. I can look like that. Because last time I did the 5 precepts in Perth, I forgot. Because I know how to chant the 227 precepts of the monks, but the 5 precepts I never almost chant, so I did it wrong. So now I've got a cheat sheet.
Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, don't.
Oh, yeah. Then we'll be here all night chanting that. Yeah. I'll just give you 5. Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
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 Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tisarana gamana nittitang.
Amma Bhante.
Excellent. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadhana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapada samadhiyami.
Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapada samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Imani panchasikkhapadani silena sugating yanti silena bhoga sampada silena nibbutting yanti tasma silang visodaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu. That means by the 5 precepts may you find happiness and leads to nibbana.
Yes, thank you, Venerable. So today we have the 4 Noble Truths, part 1. So to continue part 2, do come on Sunday. And tomorrow is our retreat day, the one-day retreat. If there are still a few places, if you all have not registered, you can turn up, but you may have to get your own lunch because it's too late to order lunch now. If some of you still want to come but have not registered, yeah, do turn up at 8:30. We start at 9 o'clock. Okay, over to you, Venerable.
Well, if the lunch was as big as mine was today, then you can have a few extra people and join the lunch still. There's still some leftovers from me, maybe somewhere in the fridge. You can have tomorrow. Yeah.
So, Venerable, we'll start with 10 minutes of meditation.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Okay, can I start? And I will. Hello, everybody. Hello. Nice to see everybody, really nice. Lots of new faces for me, because I've never been to Singapore before. Also, some familiar faces. Nice to see you again. But mostly new faces. But it's, as I said, really nice to see all of you. You probably don't know, but I spent 2 weeks in the Netherlands with my parents. And I just came back this morning, airplane from the Netherlands. So I'm a little bit tired from travel, of course, and a little bit jet-lagged as well, maybe. But Ajahn Brahmali once said, sometimes when I am tired, I give the best talks. So who knows? But probably the worst talks. So apologies in advance, but we'll see what comes out. Because you said, Eiling, that the title of today's talks is the given by me, Four Noble Truths Part 1. Yes, and the only reason for that title is that when I have to enter the country, you need the information for the Ministry of Manpower, for what I will be doing here. I don't know that I won't be spreading, communist ideas or whatever. So you need to give a title, like 4 or 5 months in advance. I had to give a title for my, only 2 months. It feels like 4 or 5 months. I had to give a title for the talk, and then I thought, well, Ajahn Brahmali always taught us to not prepare the talks and just see what comes out. At least not prepare them 2 months in advance, because life is unpredictable and you don't know what your state of mind is going to be when you give the talk. Then I thought, there's one sutta where Sariputta, the Buddha's disciple, says, all of the Buddha's teachings can be encompassed, can be included within the Four Noble Truths. So I thought, whatever I'll talk about, it's a part of the Four Noble Truths. So this is Four Noble Truths Part 1. And Sunday Part 2. And maybe if ever I come back again, Part 3. And it just goes on like that. It all fits in. So I already have, if you ever invite me again, I already have titles for many years to come. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe you won't invite me again, but at least I'm happy that you invite me. Well, you don't know what the talk is going to be yet. But at least I'm very happy that you invite me for this time. It's really nice to be here. I know many really nice monks and nuns have sat on this seat before, and it's really humbling to sit here. It's really, and it makes me feel appreciated. And I also want you to know that I appreciate all of you as well, really a lot. Because especially now I spent 2 weeks with my parents, actually a little bit more than 2 weeks, but the first week we actually spent in a monastery in Belgium. I was there in the monastery, and my parents were next door where there was like a hostel. So then I still had contact with other Buddhists. But then 2 weeks I was just with my parents, and my parents, they're not Buddhists. No. My father once meditated with me, and then some people afterwards in the group asked, so when will you be meditating again? And he said, never. Because he is very energetic, let's put it that way. Although the Buddha might call it restless. But they may be watching, I don't know. So that's why I call energetic. Yes. But very kind people, my parents, very kind. But not Buddhists. But when I'm with them, of course, I want to spend time with them. So I don't go up in my room and just meditate all day there. I did a little bit, of course, but I haven't seen my parents for almost 5 years because of COVID. I couldn't travel. And so now I finally had the opportunity to see them. I took the opportunity and really spent time with them and just be in the living room together with them. And we even went to a shopping garden center one day. Just do things that I usually don't do as a monk. Of course, keep it within the precepts that we have, of course. But yeah, do little things together. And that really funny or weird for a monk to do. All that sort of things. And that's why I like to be here and see all of you, because I really felt like a fish out of the water for 2 weeks. Like going to the garden center, for example, they had all the Christmas stuff over there. And for people who live what I call a normal life, by which I mean not being a monk or a nun, they go to the garden center and it's a really nice, a peaceful day. They go there together and it's really a calming experience. But for me, so many lights and everything moves. They have like flying Christmas Santa Claus and songs, every corner different songs, and all the flowers and trees, Christmas songs. And when I got back home, I said, wow, now I'm really tired having to see all that. But it was fun with my parents, of course. That's why I went. I never would have gone there on my own. It's because my parents went there and we have something to do together, you know. Otherwise, we just sit there in the living room. So, how was Australia? I told you already. You know, awkward silence. So now at least we had something to talk about, like Santa Claus and whatever stuff. But it also made me realize that, that as Buddhists, both you and me, maybe some of you don't consider yourself Buddhists, but Buddhists in general, we have different aims in life, at least to some extent. Of course, as a monk it's different, as a lay people, but we all take inspiration from the Buddha and the path that he taught, the Eightfold Path. And we both practice the same Eightfold Path in different ways. Everybody is different. Everybody needs to find their own way of practicing the path and the precepts. Like you took the 5 precepts and somebody said, please don't give us the 227 precepts, because why you're at a different place in life and something else is suitable for you. But at least we all share together the inspiration and the inspiration we got from the Buddha, and we share the same deeper ideas about life, let's put it that way. And that's really why I appreciate being here, because we take already 10 minutes just to sit together in quiet just before. Just 10 minutes just to sit here and just to meditate or, find some peace in a group. And to all of you, that is very normal. Maybe somebody is first time here, but to most of you, it's very normal. You just sit together and meditate. Easiest thing in the world, very normal. But to many people in the world, that's not normal. And many people in the world, they think, why would you sit there and do nothing? You achieve nothing at all. Yeah, just sit there, because that's what I sort of learned when I was in the Netherlands, and I sort of forgot how sometimes life can be for, let's say, normal people. Because I was with my parents and I saw how they live their lives, but also other people live life. And often it's always about moving on to the next thing. Like, what are we going to do tomorrow? So today we went to the garden center. Tomorrow, what will we do? Or it's living up to the next soccer match. Like, it's the World Championship soccer now. So they're supporting the Netherlands, of course. and I support Australia. I don't think Singapore takes a part, no. No, otherwise, I also support Singapore. But yeah, they live up to, will we get to the finals, will we? And that kind of stuff. And also with work, trying to fix whatever things you have in work, or trying to get a better job, or there's always something that sort of keeps people in a way going. It's there's always something on the horizon, basically, always something to strive after. When we sit down here for whatever, 10 minutes, maybe tomorrow some of you might come for the whole day, then what we do is the complete opposite. We don't strive for anything at all. Because the Buddha said, from striving and from craving, always going to the next thing, that's what creates suffering inside our mind, and also in deeper ways creates the suffering that we experience. And I really sort of recognized this only after I left my parents and I was in the airport. First I still had to check in and stuff, all the customs, all that sort of stuff. But then I sat down at the gate just waiting for the airplane, and I suddenly thought, so okay, I'll go to Singapore. That's like the next thing on the horizon for me in a way. And then to Perth, and then back to Bodhinyana Monastery where I live. And then nothing. I just go back in my hut, and that's it. Nothing to do there. And for 1 second, I sort of I felt it was kind of scary to have nothing to do, because I was sort of drawn a little bit back into my old thinking habits of lay life by being with my parents. Of course, you copy their thinking as well, and also start thinking, what shall we do after the garden center, because I think along a bit. But I got a little bit stuck in that, a little bit. And of course, you have to make plans. I'm not saying don't make plans, but I realized that I got a little bit lost my monastic attitude, where we live life really in a way just to be, and to not strive for anything else, not go for the next thing. Before I went to the Netherlands, I taught in Poland for 10 days. In Poland, there's lots of Buddhists actually in Poland. That's another country in Europe. Most of you will know, but many people, they don't know anything about Europe. They think I'm from Sweden or Norway or Poland. They mix it all up. But I'm from the Netherlands, and Poland is another country, just so you know. Not that it matters, it's so close together anyway. But so I went there and taught for 10 days in different places, and also taught a retreat for 5 days. And in the retreat I had lots of time to meditate as well. And one morning I just went meditating, walking meditation outside. I had 2 hours before the next talk I had to give, actually an interview. But I had 2 hours just to walk back and forth in peace. And I did it on the tennis court. So I told them I did many rallies on the tennis court, back and forth. And the Polish people didn't know what that meant, so that joke was lost on them. They don't know nothing about sports over there, but at least some of you laughed, so you know what I mean. So I can always reuse the old jokes again, try again. But after the 2 hours walking meditation, so I had to give a talk, and I told them, I just spent 2 hours walking meditation, and it was amazing. Because you know why? What happened? Nothing. Nothing special happened. I just walked there, and actually the amazing thing was that I was happy for nothing to happen. Just happy just to be there, and you don't set any goals, like not, at the end of this rally I will be enlightened, or whatever, I want to be more peaceful, even that is setting a goal. And it's actually, if you have a goal, like I want to be more peaceful, then you actually become more restless instead, because you're always creating craving, creating desire, and it messes up your meditation. Instead, you have the attitude, nothing special is going to happen. And that actually is what creates the peace. And it's kind of counterintuitive. And it's really a different way you need to learn to look at life, especially when you meditate. Yeah, of course, sometimes in life we do need to make things happen. For example, when I had to enter Singapore, I had to prove that I had COVID vaccinations. Otherwise, it would be very difficult. And I had my vaccinations in Australia, but my passport is Dutch, and the Australian government was very problematic in proving that I had the vaccinations, because I never went to a doctor for anything else. And apparently, then you are not in the system. Blah, blah. So I was on the phone for more than an hour to get the document. So that's an example of when you need to make things happen. Anyway, that's not an important story, but sometimes you need to make things happen, but in meditation, don't make anything happen. Just let things happen by themselves, and just be happy to be there. And then actually you will find peace within, because you're not trying to get something. And when I taught the retreatants about how I was so happy that nothing happened, they all laughed. Because they realized that they were trying to make things happen in their meditation. They were always trying to get somewhere. And that's what I realized, that in meditation you realize that at a deeper level, but that's also what I realized sometimes we do in life as well. We're always trying to find something else, and we're not just happy with being here. And it's actually, the Buddha said, contentment is what brings peace within. Just to be happy with where we are in life. And we never know what the future is going to bring. And that is why I'm so happy to see people like you who understand this, yeah? who want to lead a life of more contentment and to become in a way more simple in a way. Now, monastics like me, monks and nuns, that's what monastics mean, they take this to the extreme. So we follow the Buddha's example, and we take many precepts, and we have very little possessions to really make it also very physical, that we want to live a life of simplicity and of little desires. But I said before, we all practice the Eightfold Path in different ways, so you can fill in for yourself how you want to practice this, to be more content in life. And I think we all know for ourselves where we have to do a little bit more practice about contentment, but also kindness, peace, all the things that you've heard about before from Buddhist teachings. But as monks, we take this to the extreme. And sometimes it creates very funny situations. Like I was with my parents, and they had to, one thing we did is they basically had to take me out of their will. You know, the testament. I see the Dutch, it's like will, what's a will? That's like the testament. So they had to take me out of their will, which means that when they pass away, I don't get any money. Because I can't have any money anyway. So if it would have come to me and then I would have rejected, it would be very complicated. So they actually went to the lawyer and made a document that basically took me out of their will, which is for the lawyer was also something new. They never get, maybe they get parents who take their children out of their will because the parents don't like the children or whatever. I don't know how that happens. Arguments or I don't know. But they never have the children saying, oh, I don't want the money from my parents. So that's a new situation, you know. But they figured it out somehow. So, well, one day my parents will pass away. Maybe I'll pass away early before, but now they made it so all the money goes to my brother, because I don't need it. I, as you know, as a monk, lived a life without money and live a very simple life. And when I travel, I basically take all my possessions with me, just in a little bag and a little bowl that I use as the bowl that we eat out of. Sometimes people ask, why is it so big? You can't eat that much food. Well, first of all, you'd be surprised. When you eat one time a day, sometimes you're really hungry. But also, it's also so big because traditionally already they used to use it as a little suitcase. So put their robes in there, especially when monks were traveling on what they call tudong and traveling in the forest and it was raining a lot. At least they can keep some of their robes dry in the suitcase, so that when they go suitcase, I call it a suitcase, but the bowl. Because when I was with my parents all the time for fun, I was calling it my suitcase as well. I ate out of it as well sometimes, but I guess nobody here eats out of their suitcase. I do. No. It's I put my stuff in my bowl. Anyway, point being is that we have very little stuff, and we travel very lightly. And that's the way the Buddha encouraged the monastics to live their life. He said, like a bird only takes his wings to fly, the monastics only take their bowl and their robe. Yeah. So when I arrived at the airport, people pick me up and say, oh, don't you need to get your luggage from the belt? And I say, no, because I got it all already. Just carry on luggage. Like the bird with the two wings is what I said. So, and we live that life so we can actually, how should I say this? Make it, when you are externally challenged to live a simple life, like in the physical world, the mind is also challenged to live more simply, because you can have less desires when you have less stuff. For example, I told you before, my parents needed to take me out of their will because we don't have money. And that actually, people think, oh, you don't have money, creates so much suffering, so difficult. But actually, it's very, very easy. Because, for example, when we went to the shopping, the garden center, my parents like, can we buy this? Can we buy that? And I cannot buy anything anyway. Not even a cup of coffee. So it's very easy. Wherever you go in life, the shops, you don't need to look at. And when I go in the airport, like for example, Schiphol Airport, where in Amsterdam is very big, lots of shops. Or in the way in, I went to Qatar Airport when I went to Poland. I had a stopover at Qatar, and many shops like Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci. I have my own Gucci. One monk once saw a lot of lines in his some sort of warm clothing he made for winter. It can get a little bit cold in Australia as well. And he said, this is also my Gucci. So that's where I got the joke from. But anyway, all the shops and all the people I saw were looking at the shops. Maybe we buy a present for somebody. Or maybe I need a magazine for in the plane. But I cannot look at the shops. Well, I can look, but cannot buy. And that makes it so easy, because you don't get drawn to all the shops. It makes your life very simple. I have nothing to do here, so I'm just gonna sit. And where did I sit? I went, instead of the shops in Qatar Airport, I went into the praying room. Because they are as an Arabic country, the Muslims, Islam is the word I'm looking for. It's very big there, so they have all these little mosques, basically, in the airport. And so I just sit there and find some peace until my next flight was. And that makes it life, in a way, less worries. Because the more stuff you have, sometimes, the more worries you have. Not necessarily, maybe some people have lots of stuff and not much worries, but generally, the more stuff you have, all the stuff doesn't exist only in the external world, it also exists in our mind. And the more money you have, in a way, sometimes, the more worries you have. People want more money, they think, if I have more money, I have less worries. But I don't have money and I also very little worries, I think. So sometimes it is actually what we think will remove our worries may actually make more worries. Maybe you have 1,000, do they have dollars in Singapore? 1,000 Singaporean dollars, I don't know. And you think, I want 1 million Singaporean dollars instead. Then I'd be life more easy. But in a way, you start with 1,000 possibilities, and now you have 1 million possibilities. So actually, you go from 1,000 worries to 1 million worries. So be happy if you are poor and you think, 1,000 is actually a lot already. I wish I had 1,000. Maybe some of you are like that, I don't know. But when I was a student, I was very poor. And I did not even have 1,000 euros often. But I already realized, it creates certain worries of having too little money, but you don't have the worries that create the craving, or the worries of, I'm going to lose it all. So that's why monks and nuns, and maybe also a few lay people in the world, but not many, but mainly monks and nuns, we live without money. And we, also to set an example. Of course, not everybody can live without money in today's world. That would be impossible. But also, sometimes people ask, what if everybody becomes a monk or a nun? How are you going to get your food? How are you going to live? Then I'm like, what if everybody becomes a snooker player or a baker or whatever? It's never going to happen. Not everybody's going to become a monk and a nun. So we live this life, you live a slightly different life, but we all have the same ideals of kindness, simplicity, and contentment. And actually, to live a life of contentment is the highest ideal, in a way, in Buddhism. I said that this talk would be on the Four Noble Truths, and I haven't even mentioned them yet, but actually, sometimes you get the technical talks when they say first Noble Truth, second, third, fourth, when those talks can be very good, but actually, I have been talking about the Noble Truths already, because the third Noble Truth, many of you will know, is that suffering will end if craving ends. And there's some deeper ideas behind this, but very basically it means if we live content, then we have less suffering. And also, in the end, if you reach enlightenment, then you are always content. Even when you pass away, when you die, you're content with whatever, and are not looking for more after death. And that is when a rebirth ends. So some deeper ideas behind all this as well. And when I said before that my parents had to take me out of their will, reminds me of a little story. And this story is about a little novice monk who was cleaning his dear teacher's hut every day. And when he was cleaning his hut, there was very little stuff in the hut. There was just a bed, his bowl, something to drink maybe some clothing. But there was also, lying on a little shelf, an envelope. And on the envelope, it said, "My will." only to be opened after my death. And every day that the little novice saw that envelope, he was tempted to peek. But it was sealed, so he couldn't do it. Year after year, he kept cleaning the hut and always wondering, what is the will of my dear teacher? What will he leave me behind? Or maybe he took me out of his will. Maybe, what is his will after death? And of course, one day his teacher died. And then the novice took the envelope and opened it. And inside was empty. There was nothing inside. No letter, no will. And this is a simile for when somebody is enlightened and they die. They have no more will. No more, I mean, by will now I don't mean like the letter, but I mean the will inside, the desire, the willpower, the craving. That is what happens when an enlightened person passes away. And then, because of that, they don't create any new rebirth. And that may be some very deep ideas. So let's maybe back up a bit to more daily ideas, maybe. Because I also was reminded of a little joke. Because when you have lots of stuff, I said before, you have lots of worries. And also when you have lots of stuff, lots of things can go wrong with that stuff. And this is one thing that happened. And it didn't really happen because it's a joke. But there was once a very rich man living in Singapore, let's say. What's like a rich, well, I think the whole of Singapore is pretty rich, but maybe live in some of the rich areas of Singapore. And he had a nice house with a nice porch in front. But the paint of the porch was getting old, and he put a sign in the garden, looking for a painter to paint my porch. And very soon, knock, knock, knock on the door, there was a blonde girl standing, stereotypes, standing in front of the, that's what makes jokes funny sometimes. Anyway, standing in front of the door. And she said, I can paint your porch for you. And the man said, all right, here's 2 buckets of paint, please go ahead. And he went back inside. Very quickly after, knock, 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 oh, I'm done. And he said, already? And the girl said, yeah, already, I even put 2 coats on. By the way, it's not a Porsche, it's a Ferrari. Instead of the Porsche, the car. Like the Porsche, the car, the Porsche, all right. She thought it was the car. So if you have a Porsche, then you create suffering. Yeah, oh, by the way, well, this was funny. One time I was my birthday in Bodhinyana Monastery, and a lady called Burr, some of you might know. Yeah, she's very, she comes here maybe sometimes. Yeah. And it was my birthday, and she asked, oh, what can I get you for your birthday? Very eager. And I, no idea. So I, just for fun, for a joke, I said, yeah, a Ferrari. Has to be red, though. And you never believe. 1 minute later, a red Ferrari drove into the monastery, parked right in front of the kitchen where I was. But it wasn't for me. Yeah, that was really amazing. I've never seen one before and never since, but so we're really laughing because of that. Yeah. But no, I only got to look at it a little bit. I didn't really want it anyway, because somebody might paint it and then I have to clean it. Yeah. So we try to keep life simple. as monastics especially, but I also encourage you to try and make life more simple. At least, if you're not able to do it in the external world, try to keep your mind more simple. Because if we live a simple life, mentally, I mean, and a simple inside, we actually have less worries. Because I started saying that people often always trying to look for what's going to happen next, what's going to happen in the future. And what happens in the future is always uncertain. You can plan 100 things, or you can plan 100 things, and it's always number 101 that actually happens. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why we also don't plan these talks. We don't prepare much. Maybe we get some ideas, but as you probably realized, I go a bit from this topic to that topic because we don't. At least I don't. And Ajahn Brahmali encourages us not to really prepare everything we're going to say, because you never know what's going to happen. When I was in Poland, I just taught them the same thing about you can plan 99 things and it's always thing 100 that happens. And then I said, so I'm not going to plan my next talk that I was going to give. And what happened? It didn't happen at all. They cancelled it. So, if I would have planned something, only worries. Anyway, I make a lot of jokes about it, but it's actually very deep ideas to live a life of just to be happy and content and not to want anything else. I teach now about Ferraris and stuff, and you are laughing about it because you're like, yeah, who needs a Ferrari, you know? I can drive a Porsche, that's fine. No. Or just whatever car, I can walk, you know. So you all understand that. But it goes much deeper than that. Our desires and attachments actually go really, really, really deep. And it's very difficult to see the deepest attachments that we have. And our deepest attachments are not to cars, not even to money or things like that, all the physical stuff. That's actually quite easy to let go of. But we're attached to life itself. And that is what deeper ideas come in, where deeper ideas come in. And actually, the more stuff we have and the more attachments we have, the more problems also we have, and the more suffering. And I would like to finish today's talk with a little fairy tale. And this is one fairy tale that I sometimes fall back on when I don't know what to say anymore. Or when I get a bit tired, like actually I'm getting a little bit tired now. You might not notice, but my mind is getting a little bit sluggish because of the jet lag or whatever. No worries at all, don't worry. That's fine. I get lots of sleep later. But I tell this fairy tale now because I told it many times before. And this is actually my favorite fairy tale. And it's written by the same people, the German brothers Grimm, who wrote like Little Red Riding Hood and Roodkapje in Dutch, and lots of other famous fairy tales. But this one is not so famous, but very Buddhist story, and I like it a lot. And it's called Lucky Hans. These were written by Germans, so the person always called Hans. Like Hans and Gretel, you know that one? It's probably also written down by them. But this one is Lucky Hans. And Lucky Hans, or actually Happy Hans, you could also translate it like that. Let's call him Happy Hans. Happy Hans was working for a long time. For 7 years he was working for his boss, doing very hard labor, working day in, day out. Ooh, lots of hard work. And then one day, Happy Hans thought, I need to go and visit my mother, because I have not seen my mother for 7 years. But his mother lived very far away, so Hans needed to quit his job to do so. So he went to his boss and said, "Dear boss, I had a good time here and I worked very hard, but you never paid me yet for 7 years. This is a fairy tale. I hope you get paid more than once in 7 years for your job. But this is how it goes in fairy tales." So Hans went to his boss and said, "Please pay me now for 7 years' work." And the boss said, "Indeed, Hans, you've been working very hard and you deserve a good wage. So here is a lump of gold." And he gave him a lump of gold, and it was as big as his head, big as Hans's head, and very heavy, but worth a lot of money, of course. So Hans was very happy with that lump of gold, and he left went traveling to his mother, walking with the lump of gold. And he was walking for many days, and actually, the lump of gold got really heavy, and he really got a bad back traveling with the lump of gold. It only caused him suffering, only worries from the lump of gold, Hans thought. So then he went into a village and he saw for sale a horse. And Hans thought, this lump of gold, nothing but trouble. I will buy the horse. If I buy the horse, it's much easier to travel because I can just sit on the back and we just drive or ride, actually. It's much better than a lump of gold. So he bought the horse. The next day went traveling on the horse. But the horse was not tamed yet. And actually, instead of a nice ride, he threw Hans off. And Hans fell, dunk, on the back of his head. Whenever I tell the story, he always hurt something else. This time he hurt the back of his head. And it hurt a lot. And he was like, this horse, nothing but trouble, only worries. I can't even ride it. So in the next village, he saw for sale a cow. And Hans thought, I can probably change my horse for a cow. A cow is nice, they don't throw you off the back, you just take it by the rope or something that they put around. And I can get some milk from the cow because I've been traveling for a long time and I'm getting really thirsty. I prefer coconut milk over cow milk. It's not milk, by the way, it's just the juice anyway. Yeah, the water. And Hans thought, I can milk the cow, have something nice to drink for on the road. So next day, left with the cow. And soon he got thirsty, so he went to the cow. But nothing came out. The cow was dry. And actually, also very stubborn, the cow. Hans had to tug it all the time to get it to walk. And it slowed him down. So Hans thought, this cow, nothing but worries, only trouble. So he got into the next village and he saw a pig for sale. Well, you know where this story is going now, yeah? So pig for sale, that kind of pig. And Hans thought, I will change my cow for the pig because the cow is much more worth than a pig. And he did so, and he thought, well, if I can't get any milk, then maybe the pig, if I get hungry, I can get some bacon from it. Hans was not a Buddhist. Because he had to kill the pig to do so. However, he did actually buy the pig for the cow, but before he had the chance to turn it into bacon, he walked into the next village, and just outside of the village there were some men standing and saying, stop, inside of this village, a pig got stolen yesterday. If you go in there, they'll definitely think it was you, because you're carrying a pig around, and the police will come, and they put you in jail. And Hans was, "This pig is nothing but trouble, only worries. I need something else." And the man who spoke to him said, "Well, we can change it for a goose, the bird, the goose." And Hans thought, "Well, yeah, I can buy the goose with this pig, because a pig is much more worth than a goose. And from the goose, maybe I can get some eggs instead. And then I can eat the eggs. And maybe at the end of the journey, I can take the feathers and turn it into a pillow." Yes, he definitely wasn't a Buddhist. We wouldn't do that to a goose, would we? But anyway, Hans also didn't get the chance to do that either, because the goose actually was even more difficult to carry than the gold lump he started with, and more difficult than the pig, because he was always trying to fly away. And then Hans thought, "Oh, this goose, nothing but trouble, only worries." And he walked into the next village, and he saw a man with a grinding stone sharpening knives and scissors, like they did in the old days. Like zzz. And Hans thought, "Oh, that looks perfect. If I buy the grinding stone, I can just make money by grinding knives and scissors. It's a very easy job. And I can make money and buy whatever I want with it." And so he went to the man and said, "Here is a goose. I want a grinding stone, just like yours." And the man who was grinding the scissors said, Sure, but this is mine, so I'll get you another one." And actually, this man was a bit of a con man, because what did he do? Instead of giving Hans a real grinding stone, he gave him a rock. And the rock was as big as Hans's head. And Hans went carrying the rock into the next town, thinking it was a grinding stone. And then Hans was, this grinding stone, nothing but worries, only trouble. It's so heavy, I have to carry it around everywhere. It gives me pain in my back, and it's just a lot of sweat carrying this. So he actually got into the next village and put the grinding stone on the edge of the well, because he needed something to drink, because he was so thirsty from carrying the fake grinding stone. So he put the stone on the well, and then he tried to pull up the bucket to get some water from the bottom of the well. And while he was doing so, he accidentally bumped against the rock. Poof. And it went, wee, plump, into the bottom of the well. And this is how Happy Hans got his name, because then Hans realized, this stone was nothing but trouble, only worries. But now I have nothing, and nothing to carry, nothing to take care of. And now I can happily go to my mother. So Hans went to his mother with nothing. He had a lump of gold as big as his head, that he exchanged it for a horse, then for a cow, for a pig, and he exchanged it for a goose, and the goose for a rock as big as his head. But in the end, he let it all go and ended up with nothing. And that's when he was really happy. And this is a simile for life, and also for what we call samsara. We always try and get something else, something new. And this is what keeps samsara going, keeps the rebirth going, and keeps us always suffering in life. Because wherever we crave, whatever we want, what do we get? Yes, only troubles, only worries, just like Hans. But when we let go of everything and live a life content with nothing, and when we meditate, be content when nothing happens, when we don't get the gold meditation, but just nothing. That is the way to practice Buddhism, and that is the way to realize the Four Noble Truths fully, completely. And that is part 1 of the talk on the Four Noble Truths. And part 2 What will it be about? It's a secret, I don't know yet. But maybe more nothing. Who knows?
Sadhu,
sadhu, sadhu. Yes.
Any questions from the floor?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing? Okay, then we will let Venerable rest.
Don't. Maybe it's because I said I'm tired before that people are afraid to ask anything. Like I don't want to keep you, but I'm not tired enough yet. So, yeah. No questions at all. Yeah, you see, there's one. There's one over there actually. There's always one who needs to break the ice, and then first there's no questions, then somebody breaks the ice, and then suddenly it never ends. In Bodhinyana, we can always trust on one person to break the ice. Dear Eddie.
Hi, Bhante.
Hey.
Thanks for the sharing. Very relaxing. But you see, in life, it's easy to give away or even let go of physical things.
Yeah.
But what I'm concerned is the people or role, with family, responsibility.
Yes.
How can we let go and not let it affect us and still lead a simple life as a lay person?
Right.
Although we still have to maintain a job, maintain a family, maintain our social circle as well. Yeah, how not to get too involved?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question, and I can be honest here that when I left my parents, it was a little bit difficult as well because I hadn't seen them for 5 years before, and now I saw them for a little bit, and to go away was not like super easy, like because I get along with my parents very well, and it's one of the deeper attachments that we can have to other people. So, it is a good question for that reason, because we can have deep attachments to people. But one thing to realize is that instead of expecting people to always be there in our lives, is instead to enjoy every moment that we have together and realize that it may be the last moment. And in this way, first of all, we enjoy our time together better, and second of all, it's always a kind of a reflection that life is unpredictable and that we may not see these people always. So it actually functions in two ways, makes it more beautiful. First of all, you appreciate the people better. Second of all, you learn to accept that we won't be together forever. Basically, you learn to accept mortality in a way. And this is not something you can just flick a switch, especially when you have children or something like that. Yeah, it's not like, oh, I let go of all my attachments, just like that. But it's something you can learn. It's also not something like black or white, of course. Yeah? It's not like you're either attached or not. There's always some in between. And when people sometimes ask me, what was the hardest part to let go as a monk? What did you miss the most as a monk? And then I said, in the beginning, definitely my parents. Because I said before, we get along very well. And yeah, that was hard, especially in the beginning, to be so far away from them. But I learned over time, it's become more easy. So, by doing that kind of reflections. But we always will have to keep growing and learn slowly. And so this is something you can't just easily let go of. And you have responsibilities as well, especially if you have children, of course. You have responsibilities to them. But also to our parents, we have responsibilities as well. And that is also not something you can just run away from. So life is, as a monastic, is not about running away from that kind of thing. But it is something you might develop over time, and more of a inclination to be more to spend more time by yourself and to have less responsibilities whenever it's possible. Because the responsibilities that we already have, we just have to accept and work with, yeah? And you can't change them. But the problem comes when we unnecessarily create more responsibilities sometimes. And this is where craving really comes in. Sometimes people, they just want more responsibilities because it makes them feel more alive in a way. And that is where really the practice really comes in, to not create more unnecessary, the kind of responsibilities that actually we create out of desire. You might know sort of what I mean with that. We all have to reflect on that individually. But you can even see it sometimes in a monastery. You know, we go into the monastery to live a very simple life, but sometimes it's a bit too simple. And it's very easy to get bored sometimes. So sometimes you see monks, and I did this when I was a novice, create more responsibilities, like do more work than is actually necessary. And sometimes when I was a novice monk, I was in the workshop building stuff when actually it wasn't necessary. But over time I learned, and now I only come to the workshop when people ask me to. And I don't go there anymore like in the afternoons or whatever, just to build stuff or whatever. No, I only go there during the work time and only as much as absolutely necessary. So that is how I learned over time. That's how we all have to learn over time. Sometimes we got these questions, how do I do it? How do I go from attachment to non-attachment? But usually it's just not 100% switch. It's always slowly progressing a little bit by bit. Work with whatever challenges you right now and simplify your life based on that. Yeah. Does that make any sense? Okay. I'm happy. Didn't make much sense to me, no. No.
Any more?
All right. Everybody else is very happy. That's,
Yes.
excellent. All very content. Or tired, I don't know.
Okay, so shall we request Venerable to share merits and blessing before we leave?
Did you have a special chanting for sharing the merits, or?
We usually do etavata or just
Sorry?
what do you call?
Oh, itipiso.
No, etavata cha amhehi sambadang punya sampada. Or we can just do idang me nyatinang. This one. Dedication of merits to all sentient beings.
Oh, that one. Oh, that's been a long time since I did that one. I can't read it from here, actually.
This one. Maybe we can do it all together.
Yeah, maybe you can do it, and I will. I forgot this one, I think.
Okay, let's invite all sentient beings to participate in our quiet merits of listening to the Dhamma sharing by Venerable Sunyo today. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. The last one, let us share our merits with our departed relatives and friends. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, let's pay respects to Buddha and then to Venerable.
No Araham? Yes, of course. All right. Araham Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Excellent. Sadhu, sadhu. Let's pay respects to Venerable. Thank you, Venerable, for the lovely sharing. And thank you, brothers and sisters. I hope to see some of you tomorrow morning. 8:30 registration and 9 o'clock we start. Have a good rest, Venerable. Can leave the